is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the All the Talk, All the Sports podcast. I've got two very special guests coming on the podcast a little bit later in a stream that we just recorded a couple minutes ago. So this is going to be a very exciting episode. These guys are very insightful and have a lot of sports knowledge, and I think you'll really, really like them. I was just on their show on Tuesday, the All Sports Talk Show. I'm sure you saw on my social media pages. So make sure to give them a listen on the All Sports Talk Show. Floodster, Grant Flood, has the Floodster Sports account on Instagram, and he also is called Floodster on Sportscaster. He does play-by-play and the Power Skate Show, which is a hockey show. Isaac Edelman is his tag on Sportscaster. You can find his play-by-play commentaries and the All Sports Talk Show there on Sportscaster. And on Instagram, he posts on the Trending Sports Talk Instagram page, so make sure to give that a follow as well. Floodster Sports, Trending Sports Talk on Instagram. So these guys are awesome. Isaac Edelman and Grant Flood coming up later in the show. After that, we have some college football news to discuss. And, as you can see, a brand new backdrop for you guys. A lot of sports memorabilia to make it a little more sports-feely. This is all coming up on the All the Talk, All the Sports podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the All the Talk, All the Sports podcast. Today, I have two very special guests on, both from out of state, one from Florida, one from Massachusetts, going a little bit bigger. I think you're going to love these guys. They are very insightful when it comes to sports. We're going to have some great conversations pertaining to all four major sports leagues. Their names are Isaac and Grant. Isaac has an Instagram account, Trending Sports Talk. Make sure to follow that for all your sports updates. These two guys also have a show, the All Sports Talk Show. Make sure to see that on YouTube and Sportscaster. And then Grant's got a page called Floodster Sports as well. You can find him on Sportscaster at Floodster. And then you can find Isaac on Sportscaster at Isaac Edelman. So these guys are awesome. So I now welcome them onto the show. We found these guys on YouTube. I reached out to them. I'm like, let's do a collab. I love their content. These guys commentate actual games on their Sportscaster. So I was actually on their show on Tuesday. Very exciting stuff. These guys are great. So without further ado, let's get right into it. I mean, I sent them a list of questions, and here we go, covering every sport in the, you could call them Power 4 sports. So let's get right into it, starting with the MLB. So the MLB question I asked was, will the MLB play a whole season? I know we've seen a lot of things go around throughout the MLB with multiple teams being affected and them being up to 5 games behind the rest of the league. I know Isaac's Miami Marlins got affected. They were the first team to get affected after their first series with the Phillies. So let's start with you, Isaac. Will the MLB play a whole season after what we have seen from the Miami Marlins and the St. Louis Cardinals?
Yeah, I do think they'll do a whole season. You know, when the Marlins got the coronavirus, I was going to say no. So you may ask, why did I change my opinion? You know, it's only been a week. It's only been a week since the Marlins, have got that outbreak. Well, because the Cardinals now have it. We've seen the MLB just ignore it, and when we say ignore it, they're still playing. Right? They're not playing 60 games. So the Marlins, had a week off. They're back. They missed 6 games, 5 games. It could get to the point where if you miss 30 games, that's unfair. The season's going to be based on win percentages and not wins and losses. So you say, oh, that's unfair. If you have 30 games, you're going to have a better win percentage than other people. But it's not going to be like that. You're only going to miss 10 games at most.
Yeah, and it's interesting now because when you look at it like this, you see the Marlins up ahead in the division, and you're like, this isn't fair at all. But then you also got to remember the other teams didn't play that many games as well. And once these numbers start to get a little higher, then the play evens out a bit. So it would make it a little more even. And like you said about your point, I 100% agree. I think they will play a whole season as well. But they just got to keep it more under control. And once Rob Manfred released that statement that they needed to keep it under control, things have so far been going well. So I throw it over to you, Grant. Do you think they'll play a whole season in the MLB?
Yeah, absolutely. I was about to say once Rob Manfred did say, he blasted out that statement saying, "Hey, we gotta get this COVID situation under control, else we're just gonna cancel the season." And so far, it's been pretty good. I know the Cardinals have been hit pretty well over the past week, but really outside of that, every other team seems to be fine. I mean, the Marlins, the Phillies, the Orioles, all these teams that were, kind of affected by this at first, they're back in action finally. And I just think it was smart that Manfred unfortunately had to, put the rest of, his employees on the hot seat there for a quick minute to, really help them figure out the stuff. Because, of course, COVID is such a serious deal. And, we should be thankful that we even have baseball this season, even with the 60-game season. So, but overall, I do think, once they've really figured this out, I do think we will ultimately have the full 60-game season and the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with that. In the beginning, it was mainly a test subject, see what works, see what doesn't. And now I think as we get further into the season, they're starting to figure things out, what works and what doesn't. Second MLB question before we go to the NBA. Let's start with you, Grant, on this one. I know on the All Sports Talk show on Tuesday, we talked about MLB teams that surprised us and that look really good and have a chance to make a run. But I actually want to ask you, who is an underrated team and an overrated team in the MLB? Because we really didn't cover that. I think it's a very interesting subject with lots of teams on the table.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, underrated. I'm going to go with the team that's most surprising so far, and that's the Colorado Rockies. I mean, they have just simply game in and game out just continue to baffle me. I mean, their pitching has been on the kind of iffy side, but they can at least score about 5+ runs a game, which is what they've been doing about a week. Right now, I think the Rockies are honestly the hottest team in the NL for sure. They're a game ahead of the Dodgers too. I mean, who would have saw that coming? And honestly, the most overrated team, I would have to go with the Dodgers here. I mean, at least Mookie Betts is, playing pretty good as advertised, but the rest of the team around him, like Cody Bellinger, Max Muncy, we just haven't seen enough out of the rest of the hitting core yet, in my opinion. So I'm going to have to go with the most underrated team, the Rockies, overrated the Dodgers.
Awesome stuff. Before I answer mine, let's send it over to you, Isaac. Who's your most underrated team?
Yeah, I'm going to take it a different way than Grant is, and I think I'm taking it the right way. Grant was talking about what has surprised you, right? And absolutely, the Rockies have surprised me. The Dodgers haven't. But then when you talk about underrated and overrated, I don't think the Rockies are underrated. I don't think the Dodgers are overrated, right? The Dodgers, everyone rates them right? Just because they're having a bad start to the season doesn't mean they're overrated. That's just a start to the season.
Yeah.
For the Rockies, they're having a tremendous start. I still don't think they're underrated. They're just having a good start. But for my underrated team, I would have to go with the White Sox. You have Yasmani Grandal, who's the second best catcher in the MLB. And what makes the White Sox underrated is people don't know them. And why do they not know them? Because they've been a terrible team the last few years.
And they're not a big name.
Exactly.
Overall,
and what makes them a good team is because they're off-season signings. I said Yasmani Grandal, Edwin Encarnacion, who's one of the best DHs in the MLB. You also have got Dallas Keuchel this offseason. People think he's washed, but he's actually had a pretty good start to his season. Lucas Giolito was a first-time All-Star last year. And you also, have Luis Robert, who is my pick to win Rookie of the Year. I think he could be a top 5 player in the MLB in a few years. And, Luis Robert is not like an Aaron Judge. He's not as strong as him, but he can hit as many home runs as Aaron Judge. This guy already moved up to the leadoff spot. He has such speed. He's a Ronald Acuna, basically. He hits many home runs and he steals bases. So that's the underrated team. And overrated, it has to be the Phillies. They just underperform each year. You have Bryce Harper, who I think is overrated as well.
Very overrated. One of the most overrated player in MLB.
Exactly. People say he's underrated. Like, okay, you can't say he's underrated. At least just say he's rated correctly or he's overrated. How can he be underrated?
I agree.
You're calling him overrated. It just makes no sense. But they have Realmuto, the best catcher in the MLB.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Realmuto's awesome.
They just don't win. And they don't perform well, so they're overrated.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a Phillies fan, but sorry, Grant, I cut you off. What were you going to say there?
Oh, no, I was going to say to add on to the underrated team, I would actually throw in the Cincinnati Reds as well. They've been pretty impressive so far.
Yeah,
so I'm not a Phillies fan. I just have that because they're my hometown team. So they're on the hometown networks. And watching them, they have so much talent, but they just don't click together as a team when they need to.
It's like the Browns. The Browns have so much talent.
But they just don't use it right.
Correct. I mean, you have
Yeah.
Landry, Odell Beckham, you have Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, the best running back duo. You have Austin Hooper, who is a top 10 tight end. He's the highest paid tight end, which doesn't make him the best, but it's like Byron Jones is not the best cornerback. But look, and like you said, Grant, the Reds, they've started off well. It's not, how you start off, because the Mets last year started off the best team in the league, right?
Oh, true.
So you would say, they're underrated. But I get what you're saying. But the Reds were my playoff pick, and they're just doing, as good as I think they would do.
Yeah. So for my overrated team, I'm actually going to have to go with a little bit of a shocker in the Los Angeles Angels, because I think the Angels, when you look at their record at 5-8, this team has so much talent with Cole Calhoun, Mike Trout, the best player in baseball. I think we can all agree on that. So much talent, but just not putting it into gameplay. And 3 games under 500, that's just not good. I think they're a little bit overrated. You don't really hear too much about the Angels to begin with, but if I had to pick a kind of off-the-radar team, it would definitely be the Angels for overrated. And underrated, how about this? They're still under 500, but I think they're underrated because of the hate they were getting in the beginning of the season and before the season actually started. I'm going to go with the San Francisco Giants. This is a team with absolutely no talent, not really a good manager at all, but they're 1 game under 500 and 6-7. So I'm going to go with the Giants as an underrated team. They're sitting 4th in the NL West, but still 6-7 for the Giants is not bad when you look at their roster 1 through 9.
But this is what I have to say. You guys are, I think interpreting as, what they have been surprising. Yeah, the White Sox, they don't have that good of a record, but they're underrated. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's only been, 15 games, 10 games. So I don't think you guys should take it the, surprising way.
Yeah, but this is a Giants team when you look at it like this. Also, they split the series against the Dodgers. And this is a Dodgers team that is really, really good when we thought in the beginning of the season, and they still are a really, really good team. And I agree with that statement. I mean, when you look at it, they haven't played many games, so you can't really call out an underrated, overrated quite yet. But if I had to pick, and I'm assuming Grant, those would definitely be my 2 teams that I had to pick. So let's get out. Oh, you want to say something, add on?
Yeah, no, I was about to say, no, yours also make pretty good sense. I agree.
Awesome, points. Yes. So let's move on to the NBA. I only have one question here for the NBA. Let's just go with a bold prediction. This is what the channel's all about. Who is your NBA final champion? Let's start with you, Isaac.
I'm going to go with the Toronto Raptors again. They have one of the best defenses in the league, top 3 defense. The Bucks are better, but I just don't see the Bucks winning. You know what I'm saying? It's just the Bucks are better. They're just not a playoff team. They have the 4th best coach in the NBA. Nick Nurse from the Raptors is the 5th best coach for me. But I just don't see, the Bucks winning. So maybe they don't win. They still make it. No, I have the Raptors making it. The Heat are the biggest threat to the Bucks. They're more of a bigger threat than the Raptors to the Bucks. But, the Celtics, it could go either way. And, it may be the case that, it could be the Celtics, but the Raptors are my pick, and I have them actually winning it. And they're going to beat the West team, which I'm going to pick the Clippers from the West. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George are both clutch. Paul George, we haven't seen his chance yet in the playoffs. We are going to get to see it this year, I promise. Paul George is a great player. He's not brought up a lot, right? You just hear LeBron James, Luka Doncic, Kawhi Leonard, AD. LeBron. AD. No one, you don't hear it. No one. Paul George's name.
Yeah, I'm going to add on.
That makes him, slightly underrated. He's a great player. And then Montrezl Harrell, Zubac's a decent center. Joakim Noah has playoff experience. Not that he's good anymore, but that's a good team right there.
Yeah, I want to add something on to the Milwaukee Bucks, and I was actually going to bring this up. The Milwaukee Bucks, I just don't see them performing in the playoffs.
Exactly.
Because they don't have the experience as a playoff team. They've just hit the scene about last year where they became a really good team. So I just don't see them as well. Like, I 100% agree with that statement that I don't see the Bucks doing that well in the playoffs. I see them blowing it, actually. just kind of pulling a Dodgers. So let's move on to Grant with you. I know you don't know much about the NBA. Same with me. So if you had to pick one team, you don't really have to explain, but if you had to pick one team, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I definitely won't give as much of a length description as Isaac, that is for sure. But I do agree with you guys. I think the Bucks are a bit overrated, and they just simply, outside of Giannis and Chris Middleton, I really just don't think they can back it up in the playoffs. I'm going to go with the Raptors in the Eastern Conference, but ultimately I have the Lakers winning the NBA Finals. Just simply because, because of Kobe's death, I think the players are going to be really motivated.
Yeah.
Try to win it for him.
You're breaking up a little. Is he breaking up for you, Isaac?
He's frozen. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll get back to him. So I think he picked the Lakers. I'm going to have to pick the Lakers as well in that. So let's move on to, just with the Lakers, I think he was getting to the point. Their roster is just so deep and so talented. I just think they're an obvious pick for that. So let's move to the NFL here. Will the NFL have somewhat of a normal season? Because this is a contact sport. A bubble is not going to work for the NFL. So I know college football, I'm going to talk about that when these guys are off. So NFL, it's a contact sport. Like I said, they can't do a bubble. And it's just so interesting to see what they're going to do. So what do you think about that, Isaac?
You come in.
All right, we're back. But basically what I was saying is that I just think LeBron and AD are pretty hungry, and LeBron's just going to want to win a championship with this third team. And they're going to try to obviously win for Kobe Bryant as well. But I do see the Raptors making it to the finals again, but I do ultimately have the Clippers winning in a Game 7.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know why I cut out, but we're back.
Yeah, that's great. Glad to have you back, honestly. I was scared for a second that something would happen like what happened with Sam on Tuesday's show on the All Sports Talk Show. You can find that on Sportscaster and on YouTube. On YouTube at the All Sports Talk Show and on Sportscaster at Isaac Edelman's page. So the NFL, we were talking. So the NFL, we were talking, will they have somewhat of a normal season? Isaac was starting before you hopped on. So the bubble won't work, and this is a contact sport, so that's what I led him off with. So let's go back to your answer, Isaac.
It wouldn't work. You're not going to do it. And you go in without the coronavirus, you're going to come out without the coronavirus. So I don't really care that it's contact, right? You get tested, you test negative.
It is what it is.
You could kiss someone and, they're not going to get it if you don't have it and the other person doesn't have it. So that's what it is. And that's what they're trying to do with baseball, right? There's no bubble. I know it's not a contact sport, but if it was, it wouldn't matter, right? Mm-hmm. So, it's going to happen. Will it work? It's too early to tell. It's going to happen. The season's going to happen without a bubble. So it may fail, but I can't tell you now if it will. But I can tell you now
that
will be season week 1, no bubble.
Yeah, I think I 100% agree. A bubble will not work for football because the games take too long and they basically all play them on the same day. But to add on to what you say, it is a little bit too far out. And it doesn't matter about a contact sport, but it also is with baseball when you look at it. Even though it's not a contact sport technically, guys, when they get a base hit, they're standing less than a foot away from the first baseman, just taking their leads and after they round the base and everything. And that's just closer contact right there. They're all sharing the same ball. So I think I agree with that statement. I don't think there will be a bubble for the NFL. Let's move on to you, Grant. Will the NFL have somewhat of a normal season?
I mean, the Packers actually just announced about half an hour ago that their first 2 games of the year will not actually have any fans. And I think that's going to be the problem. I don't think we're going to have any fans. Definitely not a bubble. I agree with you guys 100%. Yeah. It's just not going to work with the way all the teams are spread out across the country. And the fact that the divisions are already pretty good the way they are, I just don't think the NFL really wants to, touch that at all. But I definitely think it will come down to there'll be no fans in that crowd. And they're going to have to pipe in noise, which is interesting because, of course, teams, they got fined for piping in noise before. Obviously, they won't be getting fined here. But, it's certainly interesting because you got to think like maybe some teams like make it like maybe way too loud or something, and like maybe they can get fined like that. Maybe I'm overthinking it, maybe I'm not. But I think overall, you can't do a bubble in the NFL, and honestly, it just wouldn't work. So outside of no fans and piped in crowd noises, I think we will have a pretty normal NFL season.
Yeah, that you brought up 2 great points there. The no fans, I was completely blown away. I did not remember that. But yeah, there is no way there's going to be fans. I mean, when you look at it, this is like the season's almost a month out. And there's no way I can see fans being in the stands already. And you brought up another good point with the pumping in, the crowd noise, maybe just a little too loud. I think you're not overthinking it at all. I think you're thinking really smart there and bringing up a great point, because you also got to look at that. NFL is going to have to set regulations for that. So that's our NFL question there. Let's move on to the NHL, our last major league team major league that we have to cover before we get off here. So the first question I asked you guys was, let's rank the round robin seeding 1 through 4. Interesting about the Eastern Conference, the Bruins cannot get first now after they suffered the loss to the Lightning last night.
Yay.
So let's start.
Tyler Johnson scoring that goal with the minute and a half left just drove me nuts.
Yeah, Grant's a huge Bruins
I shouldn't say yay. If the Panthers find their way back, they'll play the Bruins, which actually, you know something? Panthers play the Lightning way too much that I feel like the Bruins are better than Lightning, and I honestly believe that, but it's kind of like the Heat and the Bucks. I just feel like the Panthers would be better off playing against the Bruins than the Lightning. It's just they play the Lightning too much, which you would say, oh, they can figure out the Lightning, but the Lightning figure out them. So I just feel like any team besides the Lightning, the Panthers would be better against. And again, we just posted on our All Sports Talk Show Instagram account our predictions. I have the Lightning winning the Stanley Cup.
Which is wild based off of how they got swept by Columbus last year. But
I could say, again, this is a new year, Grant. You talk about Bobrovsky being the second best goalie last year, and look at him now. You know what I'm saying? So it's a whole new year. But when I think of something, I think of this. The Bruins are a better team, but again, like we were talking about, Gary, the Bucks not winning the NBA Finals or not making it. I think it's going to be that situation with the Lightning and the Bruins.
Yeah, the Bruins are not hot at all. Grant's a big Bruins fan. You're obviously a big Panthers fan. So let's rank our Eastern seedings first, 1 through 4. Grant, go ahead. Let's make this quick. Here we go.
Sure. Yeah, I got the Flyers in first. Hottest team in the NHL right now. Carter Hart should definitely be up for Vezina next year. I felt like he got snubbed this year, but we'll see what happens there. Flyers, very young, entertaining team to watch. Second, I got Tampa Bay. They're going to do pretty well, even if Steven Stamkos has to miss a couple games, which he suffered a knee injury last month, so he's been kind of in and out of the lineup. Lightning still have a fantastic roster around him, so they can go far with or without Stamkos. Third place, I have Washington. I mean, pretty much all they have to do is beat the Bruins, and third place is pretty much clinched for them. I'll be on the call for that on Sunday on Sportscaster. Woohoo, can't wait for the Bruins to get destroyed again. And then, ultimately fourth, I have the Bruins because they just look flat. I mean, they looked decent yesterday in the second and third period, but overall, I just haven't seen enough to really have a lot of confidence in the Bruins. And kind of the same deal with the Capitals.
Yeah, I'm going to actually, just before I go to Isaac, so I don't have to explain anything, I'm going to rank the same. Flyers at 1. Nothing else I can say there. They're an awesome team. This team could win a cup, which we were not thinking in the beginning of this regular season. And then I'm going to go 2 Lightning, 3 Capitals, 4 Bruins. Over to you, Isaac.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Lightning at 1, the 2 the Flyers, 3 the Capitals, and 4 the Bruins. It's simple. I'm a Florida guy, but I don't like the Lightning in any way.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking that's why I'm making that decision, there's no reason at all. But Vasilevsky, I do have as the best goalie in the NHL. I mean, Rask maybe has played like the best goalie, but I feel like Vasilevsky is the best goalie in the NHL. Again, you can't decide everything based on statistics, right?
Keeping on Hellebuck.
Yeah, it's got to be on what you see.
Yeah, but exactly. So I think Vasilevsky is better than Rask, but they have the best goalie. Stamkos is a big loss, but he'll probably be back right towards the end of the Stanley Cup, right?
Yeah, most likely. He's gonna mostly be back like midway
But
through
you know,
the
they
half at the absolute later.
I have them in first. You know, it can go either way. Again, it's a few games that can decide the first seed. So that's that. Yeah, the Bruins are just not hot. You know, Rask hasn't played in a game yet, right? Because
Well, he played yesterday.
and they did bad in that game also. So they're not figuring things out. Rask hasn't been that good in the playoffs over the years, and Halak has, but he didn't do good in the first game. So I don't know what to tell you, but the Bruins are not hot at all.
Yeah, the Bruins haven't clicked, but I think when they do click, but that's a big if, they're going to be hot, but that is unpredictable right now after we've seen those last two performances from the Boston Bruins. Let's rank our West 1 through 4. Let's start with you, Isaac.
Well, the first lineup.
Yeah. In the West, I'm the Blues. I think easy first seed. The Blues are my pick to make the Stanley Cup, but the Lightning to beat them. Two, I could go with Vegas. Vegas, I'm a big fan of. I don't consider it, rigged. The expansion draft did give them an advantage, but I still think, that what other way are you going to do it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's going to be the same thing with the Seattle Kraken. So they're going to start off hot just like the Knights did. And there is literally nothing that you can do about it that gives them a fair amount of players from different levels of experience.
Yeah. And then I'm going to go with the Avalanche. The Avalanche are actually, they're 2-0. But I'm going to go with the Avalanche at 3 and then the Stars at 4. Bishop, I think, is going to be the 5th best goalie next year. 5th. I said 5th.
Yeah, also check out All Sports Talk Show. They do a lot of rankings, player rankings, and team rankings as well. So that's something I really love about their channel. So, Grant, let's hear your 1 through 4 for the West.
Well, let me just put it to you this way. Mine is definitely a little bit different. One, I got Colorado because they manhandled the Stars last night easily, no problem. And I think if they beat Vegas, I'm pretty sure they clinched the number 1 seed if they beat Vegas. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see. So I got Colorado coming in first right now. Pavel Francouz is right up there with Hart and Elvis Merzlikins as one of the hottest goalies in the NHL right now. He's just simply, when he's on his game, he is hard to score on. Second, I have Vegas. Overall, they played a fantastic third period against the Stars, and overall, they're pretty decent overall. Very likable bunch. I think their forward core is filled with depth. William Karlsson, I think, is going to truly carry that team as the leading center. Third place, I got the defending champion Blues. They looked a little bit shaky. They've been looking all right, but I would ultimately say they finished in third. Then, the Stars finishing in fourth.
Yeah, I think all of ours are, now that once you hear mine, all of ours are different for the Western Conference, but I think one thing we can all agree on is the Stars are going to be in last without a question. So I'm actually going to go with the Avalanche at first as well. You're going to hear my bold prediction later coming up on them. If you watch my last podcast, you already know it. Then I'm going to go with the Blues at 2, and then Grant brought up, I'm going to go with Vegas at 3 because of their power core that they have right there. They're just such an offensive team. Same with the Blues and Avalanche. That's one thing those 3 teams have in common. And then the Stars, I don't even think it is based on numbers, but if it was based on best teams, based on looks, they shouldn't even be in the top 4 round robin, but it is based on numbers. So that's my ranking: Avalanche, Blues, Vegas, and then the Stars last.
Let me just say one thing about the Vegas Golden Knights. When they had the expansion draft, the Panthers, every team gave out a list of players that they can choose from. Mm-hmm. The Panthers offered out Jaromir Jagr, who you guys know is one of the greatest NHL players. I went crazy looking back because he sucked at, he was a good player to have on the team, right? He bring in a lot of fans, he got a lot of jerseys because he's a veteran, right? And he brings leadership to some team at the time.
91.
They should have took him because, they took someone who was great on the Panthers. I don't know if he's still on the team or if he's even playing. Marchessault, whatever.
Yeah, Jonathan Marchessault. Yeah, no, he's still playing with
he was
Vegas.
Great on the Panthers.
Vegas hit a home run. What are you kidding? I know you're a Panthers fan, so you're going to disagree. But no, Jonathan Marchessault was fantastic. Jaromir Jagr was already a borderline
Why
KHL
would you say I'm going
player.
to disagree with you? No, he was amazing. I feel like, they should have took Yago, and maybe, I also know they signed Riley Smith, who I think he's actually on the team still.
Riley Smith's on the biggest.
But he was good on the Panthers that year. I think he was up there in goals. He had like 6 games in a row with the goal or something. He was really good. And
that Jaromir Jagr was like 46 when the expansion draft happened, and he was already like a borderline KHL player by the time like the next season went around. So that's why I think they decided to go with the young gun with Marchessault. But
exactly. And that's why, looking back, I hope they it's not just the Panthers. They probably ruined a lot of people taking these players, that.
Oh, yeah, no, they got Fleury from the Penguins, and they figured out the backup goaltender, Tristan Jarry. So,
yeah, one thing I quickly want to bring this up with the Vegas Knights as well. When they drafted, they took a lot of good players, and that's why this was a Cup final team. And I think you're going to see the same thing with the expansion team in the Seattle Kraken as well. And I think they're going to use a lot of money to just go out and get good talent with a lot of experience. One thing I want to bring up about the MLB, I did say Cole Calhoun was on the Angels. That is my mistake. I totally forgot. He's on the Diamondbacks now. He just hit the inside the park home run last night. So I apologize for that as well. So quick, before we get off, quick bold predictions. Let's start with you, Isaac, because we've already heard your answer. Who's your Stanley Cup Final 2020 champion?
I'm going to go with the Lightning, like I said. They're a good team, Stamkos. Vasilevsky's the best goalie. Stamkos is a big loss. They also have Kucherov, I believe.
Yep, Nikita Kucherov. Yep.
I'm not losing my mind here.
A lot to keep up with.
Yeah, they're good.
Hedman, Andre Palat. I mean, the Lightning just simply have a fantastic forward corner.
And they play I know them too well. That's the second team. I don't know the NHL that well. I focus on the Panthers, but if I had to pick a team that I know the most about besides the Panthers, it'd be the Lightning, because the Panthers just play them a lot. Oh, they always start the season against the Lightning. Like, I understand that's the closest team to the Panthers, but who said you need to start off your first game?
A lot of NHL teams do that, which is crazy. But
who said you need to start off the season against a close team? Like,
I guess it's like an unofficial rule.
Start off the season against the Flyers. That they usually start off against the Flyers,
which is not that far away, but
but
this is a closer team probably.
Yeah, so Grant, give us your Cup picks. I'm on Instagram, and I looked at your page, and I just see your pick now. So give it to the fans out there.
Yep, I have. Well, this is before the Boston Bruins were, actually somewhat underperforming. But, I mean, I'm not going to switch my pick because I do think eventually they will turn around. So I have the Bruins getting revenge from last year. They won't beat the Blues, but they'll beat the Avalanche in Game 7. Won't be in TD Garden. Of course, they'll be in Toronto. But, hey, listen, a cup win for me is a cup win for me. I don't care when you play it or how you have to play or if you have to go through a virus and win it. Hey, listen, as long as the team wins, I'm cool. But, I would definitely say right now, heading into the playoffs, though, because, again, this was before, like, the round robin stuff. I'd say right now, Flyers and Avalanche, I would say right now would probably be if I had to change my prediction. But I'll stick with the Bruins and Colorado. But definitely right now, I would definitely say Philadelphia and Colorado.
So if you watched my last podcast, I picked the Avalanche. I'm sticking with the Avalanche. Offensive team, and they've got a great goalie. That's exactly what you need to win a cup. They're dominating the West. They beat the 2 teams in the Stars and the Blues, and I think they beat the Knights actually tomorrow night. Grant's commentating. Make sure to go watch it, and I think they get the 1 seed and actually end up winning the Stanley Cup final. So that wraps up everything I wanted to talk about today with these guys. Thank you guys so much for being on this show. Make sure to check out their sports pages. Isaac Edelman on Sportscaster, and make sure to follow him on Trending Sports Talk on Instagram. Grant Flood, I always want to call you Floodster on Sportscaster, and Floodster Sports Zone on Instagram. These guys are awesome, post awesome content. I know Isaac does interviews with broadcasters and gets a lot of good guys on his shows. So they commentate actual games, and they have really good shows as well. So make sure to go check those guys out. They're really awesome. I hope we can stay in contact and keep doing a lot more of these shows. So thank you guys so much for being on, and see you later.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Yep.
Yeah, this was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So now let's send it over to the college football segment. Now that that is all done, said and done, let's talk some college football here on All the Talk, All the Sports. Lots to talk about in the college football world. All Power 5 conferences have announced that they will only be doing in-conference games and in-conference schedules, except a few conferences are going to be playing one out-of-conference games close to their university and school, so that is going to be exciting as well. Hot takes coming on this little segment here for college football. Like I said before, the SEC, the Big 12, the Pac-12, the Big 10, and the ACC have all announced that they will be playing mostly in-conference schedules. Most of them are playing 10 games, and a few of them have out-of-conference games. This is going to be a little bit of a quicker segment, just my opinions on it. And here's my first opinion. I'm just going to get right into it. This is awesome. We're going to see Power 5 football straight out of mid-September, early September. Going to be super exciting. The Big Ten plays a whole Big Ten schedule starting on September 5th. This is just going to be awesome because obviously in-conference football is the best because they're evenly matched schools and they're not playing these little group of 5 conference schools. We'll get to that later, but this is awesome. I'm really excited for this season. I know it's not as exciting as a normal season. No fans in the stands most likely, and most likely just not the same and not the same vibe, but it's going to be exciting, and I'm excited for what we have and what we got, because in June the college football season was questionable, and now it's actually here. A plan is in place. We're going to see who's playing who within those Power 5 conferences. Excuse me. So this is just exciting stuff. I'm very pumped up to see in-conference football for the Power 5 schools. Let's talk about Group of 5 now, what they're going to do, because they make so much money on going to actual college big Power 5 schools. They pay them to come in there and play against their school, but that is out of the window now. So they're going to have to adapt to what the bigger conferences, Power 5, did, and they're going to have to make their judgment call, and they're obviously going to go to in-conference football as well. But like I said before, just let's wrap this up already. I am so pumped for the college football season 2020. Playoffs are on. They announced the date January 1st for the college football playoff semifinal and January 11th for the national championship. Going to be an exciting season, all in conference games. Such good football, all coming in 2020. Thank you so much for watching this episode with Grant and Isaac. Really excited to have them on. They were awesome, and they have such great content on their channels, so go check out their channels as well. Thank you all so much for listening, and stay tuned for our next video on Monday. See ya.